Hey everyone, I want to talk briefly about the assignment. So you'll have the code in this zip file. So the first thing is, of course, you'll basically unzip this and what you have inside. So for one, this code you'll use for the next three assignments. So for assignment 2, 3, and 4. And we'll continue working on it. It's on purpose not a perfect code because we'll try to make it better and test it and kind of take all the errors out. So what you'll find is you'll have a CLS folder. In this one, you have some .class files. These are the ones you're required to test. You have config files for check style, which will be important for your assignment 4. So still a little bit to go. And then you have your source files here with a couple of Java files, and you also have 2 test files in here already. And of course, you have a Gradle file. So let's take a look at this Gradle file. So you'll see some stuff is so commented. You'll need it in assignment 4. I'll mention that. So for now, you have it as application. Jacoco is mentioned in this assignment. It's basically giving you coverage information. It tells you where your main is. We'll include JUnit 4. This is important. We'll not use JUnit 5 for this. We'll include the CLS folder as dependency because that's where our .class files are included. And then here's some more stuff included for checkstyle and spotbox, which we'll use for assignment 4. So going in here, what you should be able to do is when you open the terminal, you should be able to do a Gradle run, which should, if Gradle is set up correctly on your system, should run your software, of course, and should create the build folder. Now you can also do a Gradle test, which will run your test cases that are already included in this. So now it's running all your test cases and it'll say that it fails. And this is totally okay. So what you can see, and Gradle tells you that here, right? See report at this location. So when you go in here and reports and tests, it's a little hidden down here, and open this, you will see that we have 7 tests so far, 2 failures. When you go here, you'll see that the white box test pass. There's 1 test, and black box fails. There are 6 tests, and 1 of them fails. And then here you even have the report that it fails here, that this was the expected value. This is value that it was actually was, and then you have the same thing down here for a different test case. So you'll basically see what your test case, and you have a test report in here, right? And then you see them, you see how long they took. So this is kind of a nice way to kind of look at your test cases. So, but another thing I want to talk about, how do you get this into your IDE? I'm going to use Eclipse here. You can, of course, again, use IntelliJ if you like. So I'm going to go in here and I want to load this project. So I'm going to go in here and say I want to go browse here. Sorry. Let's go here. This is not this project. Sorry, I put it in here. So we're using this. We include it here. And now when we open that, we still need to set the dependencies. Basically the exact same dependencies that were used in your Gradle file, right? If you remember your Gradle file here. Sorry for going back here. If you remember this Gradle file, we had the dependency that we're using JUnit, and we want this for compiled files. So going back to, okay, let's briefly talk how to get this to run in your IDE. I'm going to show you in Eclipse, but basically you can do it in any IDE, of course. And just remember when you set it up that, let's go back here for a second and open the Gradle file, that you will need to set the dependencies. So you will need to set JUnit and the CLS folder, which includes your files, your .class files for the cards 0 to 5. If you don't do that, it doesn't work. So for now, it'll also give you the messages here, right? So if you take a look at this and you have black box here, it will complain that it doesn't find JUnit. So going in here, you can go to your build path or just to add library. I'm going to go here and I'm going to say I want to add a library, I want to add JUnit, and I want to use JUnit 4. This is important for what we are doing here. We need JUnit 4. And I'm also going to do another class folder and saying, hey, I have compiled files that are in here, and then I'm going to do apply and close, and this should get rid of all our messages. So now for the black box test. When we run this, we should see that hopefully runs, and you'll see a bunch of test cases here. So let's take a quick look at this. So this is a little bit special because what we're doing here basically, we do want to test, let me close this. We have our cart here, and our cart has a description of the method you need to test the calc cost, but our cart only returns 0. So what you will test are these 6 cards, which are based on this card. So these cards extend this card, and all of them implement the same method, but do something different in them, right? They have some errors, so just imagine 5 or 6 people implementing the same method, and now your task is to test this method. So what we're going to do is we're using this black box given test, and you basically define all the classes you want to test. All this is done for you, so we're defining 0 to 5 here. Then we have a constructor here. This is how you want to create a cart, because that is how it's set up. So when you create a cart with this method, it'll basically call the constructor for your cart and give it an age and say, well, this belongs to our classes under test, which are of type cart. These are of type cart because they extend this cart. So now basically every time we create a test case, so when you look at this, we only have one test case defined, but when we look at this same test case is ran for each of these carts, 0 to 5. So this one, 0 belongs to the cart 0, cart 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it runs the same test, this one, for all 6 of them. So what we do is in here, I create a sample cart of type cart 1, so it has to be of type cart, not 0, 1, 2, 3, because this is done automatically. And then I set a value of the cart value I expect. And then in that setup method for JUnit, I use that cart, I set it up with create cart with this method and say, hey, I have a user who wants to buy something who's older than 40. That user wants to buy 2 alcohol items, 3 dairy items, and 3 meat items, 4 meat items. And then the expected value in my cart is 70.2. Now I create my test here and say, well, I want to check if this is correct. So I'm creating an amount, which basically calls calc cost for my cart 1, and then test if the expected value is equal to the return value. Important is that only by doing this and setting the cart up like we're doing here with all this stuff above here, runs the same test for each of our classes under test. So we really create a set of classes under test, and we run the same test cases. And when you add another test case, it'll run this test case for all of these classes. So this makes this testing pretty easy. So now you get an information about, hey, which of these failed this test case. And your job in this assignment for the black box test is to run through this to create a bunch of test cases with boundary value analysis, with edge cases, and we're going to talk about this in class, and to try to figure out where are the errors in here. Which of them does not, let's take a look at this, right? Which of them might not use the right numbers here? Which of them might not use that deal, right? I can get a produce for $2, or I can buy 3 for 5, or this alcohol frozen food discount. Which of them apply it? Which of them don't? What about the underage exception? Does it always work? Is it always correctly applied? So all of these things you should test and try to write your test cases in a way that you can narrow down where these test classes here basically go wrong. Where are the implementation errors? And you should do it based on black box testing. So the only thing you have is the expected behavior here, and then you have the .class files where you don't have the Java files for. And you need to try to figure out how it works.